Yeah, what's happening, people? Okay, so today I want to talk about Metallica. Specifically, I want to talk about Metallica. So it is the 29th anniversary of the release of this album, the self-titled Metallica, which is more commonly known as the Black Album. And I believe this was the first the first Metallica album that I bought. So yeah, this is a very special album for me. So as it's the 29th anniversary, which is being celebrated right now, let me talk a little bit about this to share my story of this album and Metallica and what it means to me and so on. And so yeah, this was actually, let me open this up real quick so you can see it better because the light's a bit bouncy off the disc of the case. So that is the album. It does say Metallica there because it's a bit faded, and then there's the snake, which is really faded as well. That's very deliberate design, so it's difficult to see just anyway. But that is the album cover. So yeah, this was the first Metallica album I believe I bought. I actually bought it on cassette tape, which unfortunately I can't show because my cassette collection, I'm sure it's somewhere, but there was a move and then it just got lost in the move. Maybe one day, God willing, I'll actually find it and I can show it to you. But I had a very small cassette tape collection, and Metallica, I believe I had two Metallica albums on cassette tape, which was the Black Album and Ride the Lightning, and then eventually I bought them all on CD. And now nobody buys CDs, so it's just the evolution of music. Nobody buys CDs anymore. It's all streamed now. So, but yeah, this was Metallica's first Metallica album that I bought. And before this, to my mind, I feel like I remember hearing about Metallica maybe during the 80s or early 90s or something like that. I know I didn't listen to them. I know I wasn't paying attention to them. I know I wasn't like a fan of them or anything like that. But I just feel like, in my mind, it feels like I remember hearing the name Metallica in reference to a metal band, but I just never bothered with it. I grew up listening mostly to, R&B, hip hop. Well, hip hop a bit later on. A little bit of hip hop. I say mostly hip hop came a bit later on, but a little bit of hip hop, a little bit of hip hop in the beginning, but mostly the biggest hip hop stuff came later. But back in the 80s, yeah, there's just a tiny little bit of hip hop. Jungle as well was big back when I was a kid. What else? So yeah, Michael Jackson was one of my favorite artists. Prince, of course. Of course, as the general pop music at the time. So Metallica, heavy metal, it was just kind of that stuff that you don't really. It's like whatever, that devil music, right? You never really pay much attention to it. Around my area, weren't too many places you can listen to heavy metal. It's just how it was. Yeah, it wasn't until about 93, maybe 94, where it was an episode of Beavis and Butthead. So real quick, oh, by the way, I do have a Metallica t-shirt on right now, so repping Metallica right now. But yeah, back in 93, 94, Beavis and Butthead aired an episode. Now, real quick, for those who don't know, Beavis and Butthead was an animated show by Mike Judge back in the 90s. They did bring it back, actually, I think in 2000 something, but for one season. I did hear they're actually going to bring it back again, so that'd be pretty cool. But anyway, back in the 90s, Beavis and Butthead was an animated show, and they'd go on these dumb adventures. These two dumb kids just hanging out with each other. But the thing is, the episodes were actually really, really short. They're about 5 minutes, like 3 to 5 minutes long. And I guess because it's on TV, you had to kind of stretch it out to like the 20, 30-minute mark. So what they would have is per episode on what they show on TV is that you'd have like two Beavis and Butthead episodes, as in two sort of 5-minute episodes, but they'd be broken up with music videos reviews, shall we say, where Beavis and Butthead would be just sat in front of their TV and they'd be watching. It was on MTV, so I'm sure they had access to all kinds of music and stuff just from that. And they'll watch these music videos. They'll be talking about them, making fun of them, and just saying all kinds of dumb stuff. And this sucks, and that kind of stuff. But this is cool, that kind of thing. And one day, for context, Beavis wears a Metallica t-shirt. Butthead wears an AC/DC shirt. And then one day they did an episode where they're watching one by Metallica, and Beavis says, "What the hell's this crap?" And then Butthead says, he says, "You should know Butt Munch is Metallica." And he's like, "Oh yeah, this one sucks, but it's really cool." And yeah, I remember hearing that song and just thinking, wow, this is so cool. And my older brother bought the album and Justice for All that it's on. And I listened to it way more than he did. I remember listening to the album just it was practically obsessed with it. Eventually I bought, this is my own copy, I did eventually buy my own copy, but I remember he bought it initially, and I just maxed it out to listen to it all day, just like I was obsessed with that album. Really was obsessed with the album. And I guess in truth, I have kind of an obsessive nature. So when I get into something, I want to know as much about it as possible. So I remember like trying to find out as much about Metallica as I could. And this is pre-internet in terms of we in my household didn't get the internet. So I think about 96, 97, and the internet was around. I know, like, and it's been around since like the 40s or 50s, I think 50s or 60s. But it started to become a bit more popular. I think about maybe 93, 94. But yeah, we didn't get access to it a bit later on. So it was like what I was able to find out was pretty limited. But I do remember finding out that this was the last album they had released at the time. So yeah, I went out and I got it on cassette tape. And I got home and I remember listening to it. It was after school, and put it in the cassette player, listen to it from beginning to end. And this is back in the day when you could do that. You know, back in the day when you could just actually listen to an album and do nothing else. Like now it's like maybe you listen to music while you're driving, or you listen to music while you're in the kitchen, listen to music while you're working out, listen to music while you're doing this, doing that, da da da. But it's a rare occasion where you get to actually just sit down and do nothing but listen to music. But back then you could do that. Well, at least I could do that anyway. And I remember just sitting down and just listening to this album from beginning to end, side one, I turn it over, side two. And if memory serves correctly, and bear in mind this is quite a long time ago now, but if memory serves correctly, it was also the first album that I listened to twice in a row. Like normally it'd be like I might listen to an album, but oh yeah, it's really cool, but I'll listen to it again some other time. I feel like this was the first time I got to the end of an album and I was like, you know what, I need to listen to this again right now. Because I remember getting up and turning it right back to begin, make sure it was rewound and everything, put it back into the cassette player and listen to it again. And it's just such an incredible album. Like this album is amazing. Like it is just beginning to end, absolutely just fantastic, brilliant album. And when it comes to favourite songs, I mean, I feel like a lot of people would probably say either The Unforgiven or Nothing Else Matters. Both of them are great songs. I'm trying to say that, but for me, my personal favourite is Through the Never, and it's just kind of like a little thing, really. It's just something that happens during that song where it's almost like poetry. And for those who know, I ended up writing poetry for a little while, so maybe that was part of the reason. Just something poetic that inspired me before I even started writing poetry. But there's a part in that song where it just goes, on through the never we must go, on through the never, out to the edge of forever we must go, on through the never comes. Dun, 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 dun. And it was just such a cool rhythmic thing to hear, and yeah, that just stuck with me from the longest, and so yeah, that's my personal favorite song. And also another thing real quick as well, while I'm doing this is back when pretty much every album you bought had song lyrics on the inlay card. That's a rare thing these days. Like I guess I haven't bought an album now for a long time because, streaming and stuff. And the albums that I have bought have been mostly on vinyl. Well, you can't even say it, but I mostly buy stuff on vinyl now, if I do buy anything at all. And even when I buy something on vinyl, I don't actually open it. I mean, you can tell, but this is actually still sealed. But I do buy stuff on vinyl from time to time. But when it comes to listening to music, it's all streaming. But yeah, the last maybe, I don't know, like 5-10 albums that I bought over the last, how it may say 5 to 10 years or so. I feel like only a few of them, like maybe a couple of Eminem ones, had song lyrics in them, and the rest of them don't. I mean, they got production notes, which is cool. You want to know that sort of stuff too, right? But it's cool when they have actual song lyrics where you can actually read through the song lyrics and know what they're saying, because you can't always make out what they're saying when you listen to it, right? Just So yeah, this is back when pretty much every album would have song lyrics, but I don't know why that changed. Also on this card as well, you got the band members. So we've got James Hetfield there. We have Lars Ulrich there. We have Kirk Hammett there, masterful guitar player. And we have former band member Jason Newsted. And this wasn't this wasn't Jason's last album. Jason's last album came a few albums later on, but he did eventually leave the band. And there's a documentary called Some Kind of Monster, which talks, or part of that talks about why he left the band, and it's to do with creativity, which I totally understand. I mean, I don't want to say he was right to leave because I'm not in there with him. I don't know what else was going on. But from what I read in the documentary, what I watched in the documentary, he's talking about the feeling of not being able to get your creativity out. And as somebody who considers himself to be creative, I get that. You know, I feel like when if you're in a position where you're feeling like you got something that you want to put out, and for whatever reason you're unable to do it, and you recognize it's to do with your surroundings, then all the millions of dollars in the world isn't going to take away that feeling. So if that was the case, I get it. It's a shame that it came to that, because he was a great bass player. Nothing against Rob Jahil. I think he's doing a fantastic. I think he's a fantastic bass player as well. But it's just a shame that it came to that with Jason Newsted, you know, because well, it is what it is. But yeah, I get it. You know, I get it. Speaking of Jason Newsted, though, actually, this is Unjustifiable. So this was the album that my brother bought initially, and I eventually got my own copy. And you can't even see it right now because it's I think the lights is too much, but. Yeah, this is an amazing album, but it wasn't until maybe, I think about a few months ago, where I found out. And bear in mind that I'm late to Metallica party just anyway, like coming in at like 93 or 94, they've already been around for something like, what, 15-ish years at that point? 15, 16 years at that point? So I'm kind of late to Metallica party anyway. But so I didn't know this at the time, but I think about a few months ago, I found out that this album has a little bit of controversy surrounding it. So apparently what happened is that the bass was turned down. So Jason done his bass track, and then apparently Mr. Ulrich told the producer to turn down the bass. So what you hear on this album is a reduced bass. Now, I heard the album back then. I was like, it's a great album. I'm not knocking the album. It's a fantastic album, definitely worth checking out. But I did find this one on YouTube where somebody put the bass back up, and they call it Injustice for Jason. And I listened to that, and it was like listening to the album for the first time again. It is incredible. When you hear the bass, how it was supposed to sound, at least supposedly how it's supposed to sound, you feel it, like it's just woo. And to be fair, not every track, I feel like not every track made a massive difference with it, but certainly like a good few of them, you're like, that bass, man, you feel it. So yeah, it's a bit of a shame. It's a bit of a shame that some of these things happen, but it's how it goes. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you do. Let me know if you have any Metallica stories yourself. But that's gonna be it for the minute. So guys, until whenever, if ever, peace out, y'all. And by the way, if it looks like I'm sweating, it's because the humidity is real. All right, peace.